Hello, wonderful butterflies of this world. It's your host here, Ash, from Butterfly Shots. Welcome back to Ash Unmasked for another episode, the podcast where we talk about everything and anything, from books to life's little drama stories to everything in between. For people that already know, Ash loves to talk, and it's no secret that we is a massive book lover. Well, today we're diving into a book that really had an impact on her life in 2023. This episode is a discussion about Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass, published in 2013. It is a book that is supposed to help with motivation, self-love, and to stop doubting our greatness. Supposedly, this is a New York Times bestseller that sold over 3 million copies and is now available in more than 30 languages. Amazon says, quote, "By the end of You Are a Badass, you'll understand why you are how you are, how to love what you can't change, how to change what you don't love, and how to use the force to kick some serious ass." End of quote. Wow, those are big claims. To further the research on the book a little bit, we also watched a 55 minutes review on YouTube by Savy Writes Books, in which the YouTuber absolutely destroys the book and the author. It is there that we also learned that the author's name is Jen Sincero, and we've been pronouncing the author's name wrong the entire time because we've been saying Jen Sincero and it's Jen Sincero. Anyway, 2 different blogs were also consulted, one positive review by Rebecca K Sampson and one more critical review by Canon Ball Read, and the links to the sources will be included in the show notes. The blog by Rebecca K Sampson describes this book as a guide for the law of attraction and manifestation. Canon Ball Read blogs describes it as a self-help book by a life coach that says very little new or original with added swear words. So grab a cookie and a latte or a snack and a beverage and let's get to it, shall we? Before we start, pardon us for all future mistakes. This whole podcast thing is still very new. Bear with us while we learn how this works. Thank you. While starting the book, the first thing that came to mind was, whoa, these are small characters, and there's a lot of chapters, 27, and a lot of pages, 156. That being said, the chapters are short and sweet, so it doesn't feel like a heavy read, and each chapter focuses on one specific point. One positive thing about the author, in our opinion, is her humor. In fact, many times we laughed out loud while reading the book. A quote from the book that really caught her attention is this one. Quote, "If you want to live a life you've never lived, you have to do things you've never done." End of quote. We love this quote because it encourages us to take action and to step outside of our comfort zone when we deem some changes in our life. And according to Amazon, this quote was also highlighted by a lot of Kindle readers, and it is a quote that we very much like. Another quote that stood out to us was, "You are not up for negotiation." And we love this because we are, as we are, perfect. Nobody should apologize for who they are. And I find that saying that we're not up for negotiation is an empowering message, especially in the world that we live in now, that a lot of times try to make us feel less than or try to make us fit in. Well, it's okay to take up space and own your own worth. Now, 2 more quotes that were popular from the Kindle readers are, quote, "Do not waste your precious time giving one single crap about what anybody else thinks of you." End of quote. And the second goes like this, quote, "What other people think about you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them." End of quote. So these were just quotes that we wish to underline that we thought were nice about this book. Now about the book structure. The book is presented in 5 parts. The first part of the book is how you got this way. The second part of the book is how to embrace your inner badass. The third part of the book, in our opinion, is where it starts going downhill, and it's all about tapping into what the author calls the motherlode. The fourth part of the book is about getting over your own BS, and the fifth part of the book is about kicking some ass. In this episode, we'll go quickly over the subjects talked about in this book, kind of like a quick overview. For more detailed explanation of the chapters and the content of each of them, we invite you to visit Rebecca K Sampson's blog, because it does a really good job at explaining that. In the first of the 5 parts of the book, named How You Got This Way, the author talks about limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are those sneaky little thoughts that hide in the back of the unconscious and quietly hold us back. They usually come from the past, or experiences from when we were kids, growing up, what we were taught, what we saw. And over time, that builds a belief system that gets embedded deep in the subconscious. It's buried deep, we don't even notice it, but it does guide our action and decisions, and often it holds us back. Those limiting beliefs, they run the show. Then in this part, the author also touches on the subject of faith. She does say that it does not necessarily mean religion, while it can be whatever floats your boat. The author says that the idea is to have faith in something greater, whether it's God, the universe. The author does make a powerful point that living more in the present moment leads to a richer, more meaningful life. And she goes on to talk about the ego. The author explains that the ego hates change. The second that someone tries to grow or shift something in their life, their ego might throw a tantrum. That's because the ego clings to those old, false, limiting beliefs. The author finally talks about self-perception. Jen encourages us to try and see ourselves the way someone who loves us does. Try to see yourself through the eyes of someone who loves us. Now let's move to the second part of the book, which is all about embracing your inner badass. This is where the author talks about getting to know yourself and loving yourself. Getting to know yourself and embracing the beautiful parts as well as the flawed parts of yourself. Loving yourself is about letting go of the guilt and resentment and that inner critic constantly whispering to us that we're not good enough. It's choosing to show our self-compassion and gratitude, even when it feels hard. The author Jen does give us some tips to start loving ourselves again. Here are a few: to drown ourselves in affirmation after figuring out what we need to hear, to make the time and to delegate if needed to do things we love, to be mindful about the way we talk to ourselves. The inner talk matters. To let others love us, to forgive ourselves, and to stop comparing ourselves to others. The author also encourages us to find purpose, to imagine life as if we were a little child discovering new things, to try things without trying to be perfect, being okay with failing, just trying to do our best at what we do, and to look up at other people. And most of all, loving ourselves is letting go of what people think of us, because we don't need their validation. Now let's go to part 3 of the book, where the author talks about tapping into the motherlode, the idea of harnessing the power of our mind, being present, meditating, and practicing gratitude. We do agree with being in the present moment and meditating and practicing gratitude. You know, even just 5 minutes a day of meditation can make a difference. And the most important part is just to show up. Nobody needs a fancy setup. Just set a timer, light a candle if you're feeling like that, and focus on your breath. Now, the author encourages people to explore manifesting. This is where we start to get on the fence, but we'll get back to this later. The author Jen also emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with people who think the way you do, who lift you up and share your mindset. What she says is that, quote, "The people you surround yourself with are excellent mirrors of who you are and how much or how little you love yourself," end of quote. And she goes on and says, quote, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent," end of quote. What the author tells us is to own our ugly. When we have some toxic people around us, to get rid of them. Slam the eject button. Bye-bye. And then there's the part about gratitude. One thing that we enjoyed about this is how the author frames gratitude during a tough time. You know, when something not so great happens, it's about trying to pause and to ask ourselves what good can come from this. Then the author talks about forgiveness. What she says is, quote, "The moment you decide to forgive and let your negative feelings melt away, you're on the road to freedom," end of quote. The author then gives us a breakdown on how to forgive. According to the author, here's a breakdown on how to forgive. First step, offer compassion to yourself and to the other person. Second step, remove the other person from the equation. Focus on the opportunity you have to grow. Third step, aim to be happy, not right. Fourth step, try to see the situation from different perspectives. You know, everyone's reality is a little different, and sometimes it can help to try to see it from different perspectives. The fifth step is to have a total shit fit, to punch pillows, scream, cry, whatever helps to release the emotions. And finally, remind yourself that one day you won't even remember this. Clean the slate. It seems very simple, put this way. Now, let's jump into the fourth part of the book where the author explains how to get over your BS. Really, this part is a nudge to let go of bad habits and procrastination. The author drops this phrase: "What you choose to focus on becomes your reality," stating that we need to start paying attention to the stories we tell ourselves. What are we gaining from holding on to those stories? We need to let them go. A line that we loved was, quote, "In order to kick ass, you must first lift up your foot," end of quote. So we can't get anywhere if we don't take that first step. Just take the first step. The author reminds us that it's better done than perfect. It's also important to show respect for your own time. If you're feeling overwhelmed by everything you need to do, break it down in small steps. Look at where your time is being wasted. Figure out your priorities and delegate if you can. And do what is necessary. Don't forget that you're number one. If your brain loves to throw a pity party right before bed, pause and tell yourself, "I'll deal with this tomorrow, but for now I need sleep." Sometimes all we need to do is give ourselves permission to rest. The fifth part of the book is how to kick some ass. This part talks about commitment and never giving up. The author tells us that if we want something, we want it bad. Just stick to it like glue. Get good at it and keep going. The people that succeed, they're the ones that move through challenges without stopping. They don't let obstacles throw them off. They just keep showing up. Slow and steady wins the race. I think the lesson here to remember is really be the last one standing. Tenacity. And then fate comes back into play, and the author writes, quote, "Your faith in the universe must be stronger than your fear of not getting what you want." End of quote. Boom, 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 boom. Let's unmask this and talk about a few things that are deeply bothersome in this book. Back in 2023, we really enjoyed the book. That being said, today in 2025, we want to put out a warning about this type of book. Without wanting to offend anyone or hurt anyone's feeling, we notice that a part of the self-help industry seems to benefit a lot from taking advantage of people who are in vulnerable states in their life or health. This is an invite to all of you to approach this genre of book with a grain of salt, critical and rational thinking, and a dash of skepticism, like a big dash. In retrospect, we find this book very simplistic, kind of insulting to mental health disorders. What should be taken with a grain of salt is, to us, is especially the parts about manifestation. Don't get me wrong, if this is something that works for you, good, keep doing it. I know a lot of people who swear by this. In fact, we used to believe in this, but today it's a little bit too fluffy woo-woo for us. This is just a reminder that people with mental health disorders might have a hard time keeping touch with reality. So telling them that their idea is the reality is not a great way to go. Now, the whole part about the source energy, where she talks about fate, was weird to us. And Canon Ball Read blog also touches on this subject. It's like the author really encourages us to believe in a higher power of some sort. Reading it, we felt kind of forced to believe in some type of God. I know that religion and spirituality can bring a lot to many people. That's okay. Keep doing your thing. If that's your thing, don't listen to me. I'm not trying to discourage the beliefs in higher power. It's just not for Ash. We prefer science, and we encourage you to believe in yourself. That being said, the book tries to compare the law of attraction to science, just like The Secret by Rhonda Rhimes. In fact, in some ways, it resembles The Secret series by Rhonda Rhimes a lot, and we ditched that mindset a while back. A whole podcast episode will be dedicated to this subject sometime in the future. Back to the book. Back when we read the book in 2023, we was hardcore into the law of attraction and really enjoyed the book. Nowadays, the mindset changed and we'd rather classify it as a toxic book, just like The Secret. The reason we talk about toxicity, it is because in the beginning that you practice this stuff, like you feel great, and then you get deeper and deeper into it, and then you realize that it's rooted in toxic positivity and even victim blaming. Toxic positivity because it feels like this mindset does not encourage people to feel their emotions. And victim blaming because in the law of attraction mindset, every negative event, anything bad that happens to you is your fault. It is due to your own negative thoughts. This type of thinking is dangerous, especially for people who take things to the extreme or people with fragile mental health. I find that this book is insensitive to mental health disorders per se. When the author talks about depression being a comfy place to seek attention, excuse me, I don't think you actually suffer from depression because this is absolutely bullcrap. It kind of feel like she's making fun of people with depression, like downsizing the impact of it. Yo, this is a real disease. Now there's another part that bothers us. Well, the whole part about advice on money from this author is not recommendable and very simplistic. Basically, the author tells us to buy things and the money will come after. What is the basis of this claim? This encourages people to be delusional and spend money they don't have. This is absolutely not good. Do not buy things you can't afford. She encourages people to get into debt to make money. There's a part where she talks about being a life coach and how she embarked other people under her to be a life coach as well. Well, to me, that looks like the author encourages us to do like a pyramid scheme. Personally, I think that's a weird thing to encourage. The author even goes and talk about buying a fancy car she couldn't even pay for because the money was going to come to her. This author is from a very privileged background. It's just a lot of fluff without real facts. Upon further investigation, found that the podcast called If Books Could Kill covered this book. I haven't listened to their podcast, but I will leave the link in the show notes for you to check it out if wanted. But we did read the blog about the podcast. They do mention that the book includes quotes from famous people, but that are misattributed. If Books Could Kill podcast also underlines that the critics argue that the book oversimplifies complex issues and borders on victim blaming. If Book Could Kill's podcast also touches the subject of Jen's previous work, which we've never heard of. Apparently, Jen Sincero wrote a very controversial book, 2005, about straight women sleeping with lesbian women being bi-curious. Anyway, this is horrible and enforces stigma around bisexuality and pansexuality. And that's not okay. Just like the podcast If Books Could Kill, I would like to warn people of the idea that positive thinking alone can solve all problems, because it cannot. Some things from the book was enjoyable for us, some were a lot less. Really, unless you're a big fan of the law of attraction and manifestation, do not waste your time on this book. Originally, we loved the idea of learning how to become a badass, but as we read the book, we realized that this ain't it for us. In our opinion, there are much better self-help books or books to help build self-confidence that exist. We love to hear your thoughts. Have you read You Are a Badass? What were your takeaways? Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and join me whenever you can. Remember that you are a badass, and you do not need a fluffy woo-woo book to tell you that. I can't wait to unmask more of this life journey with y'alls. Thank you so much for fluttering by the pod. Until next time, peace out and take care of yourselves out there.